Engineers are the unsung heroes behind the structures and systems that make our modern world function seamlessly. Without their expertise, our buildings would teeter, our trains would falter, and our solutions would revolve around an overabundance of duct tape. Yet, even the most brilliant minds in engineering are not immune to the occasional mishap. Today, we invite you to delve into the realm of engineering, where the intersection of ambition and human ingenuity sometimes results in hilariously unexpected outcomes. Join us as we explore some of the most comical engineering mishaps ever recorded. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to never miss another update. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Tacoma, Washington Bridge. The opening of a new bridge is always an exciting and monumental occasion. But in the case of the Tacoma, Washington Bridge, built in 1940, that wasn't entirely true. After just 4 months, this suspension cable bridge collapsed because of an ear-elastic flutter. Its failure has been studied ever since the Tacoma, Washington Bridge was the first bridge to have plate girders used as roadbed support. It was also the first cable suspension bridge and the third largest of that type at the time. It had a 2,800-foot central span, and both its sides measured 1,100 feet each. It was an incredibly long bridge with 226-foot cable anchorages and 2 5-foot sidewalks. Although because of its length, it was classed as a narrow bridge. Even back in 1940, construction costs were a whopping $6 million after it was opened to the public. It started to buckle and sway in the end, even in light winds. This sway was noticeable when winds of 70 kilometers per hour hit the bridge. The bridge started to rise, fall, and twist. Finally, cracks formed and the entire bridge crashed into the river. Fortunately, no one lost their life. However, the bridge's construction has been used in engineering studies so people can understand how isolation works. Before we go on like this video, smash the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now or this setup. It'll grow on your face when you're sleeping. Number 2. Stairway to Nowhere. Stairs have some of the easiest functions in the world. Their main goal is to transport people from floors and levels, but sometimes that easy task simply can't be done. While these stairs were meant to be exit ways out of apartment buildings and houses, engineers must have overlooked fine detailing in the blueprints and accidentally built stairways, narrow windows, or dead ends. It's even worse when a staircase mishap happens during mid-air construction and you realize there's nothing that can be done to fix the problem. Number 3. Grover House, the house that Grove built. Our next story takes us back to 2006 and onto the Something Awful forums. If you've been on the internet for a while, you're already holding your breath because this website is responsible for some classic internet drama. Our tale begins when a moderator for the forums by the name of Grover decided he was going to build his own home based on an EMS paint mock-up. And despite being completely unqualified, a perfect storm, users let him know this was a terrible idea. But Grover didn't listen and soon found himself the architect of the single most mean building on the planet. Grover's house really was the home that kept on giving with each image Grover posted, telling a different, hilarious story. Grover's unique eye for aesthetics are on display here, where you can see 7 windows in 4 different styles, none of which mesh together in a coherent way. And if you think they make more sense from the inside, they don't. Then there's this picture of his kitchen which reveals that Grover thought he would need 8 power outlets a foot apart from one another. Personally, though, I'm a fan of this picture of the interior, which reveals a window perfectly placed so that if you fell down the stairs, you'd also crash through the window into a swamp below. Oh, did I not mention this entire house was built in a place called the Great Dismal Swamp? No, that's not an area in a Dark Souls game. It's a real swamp in Virginia that Grover thought would be the perfect place to build a home. Now, the funny thing about houses, though, is that they need to pass several safety inspections to be deemed livable. Well, as you can imagine, Grover House did not pass the safety inspection. This was perhaps due to his septic tank not being enough to support the waste his family would produce, or the fact that he used drywall, a notoriously flimsy substance, as a load-bearing material. So Grover was finally forced to admit enough was enough and pack the whole thing in. Yeah, right. Instead, Grover decided to become a qualified health and safety inspector just so he had the authority to pass his clearly unsafe house. The ultimate fate of Grover's house is still a mystery, with some claiming it was abandoned, while others insist that Grover still lives there today, roaming the monstrosity like a mad scientist. Come on, Hollywood, where's our Grover House horror movie? Number 4. We're That Bridge. When the Quebec Bridge was built, it was an engineering marvel. It would become the largest structure of its kind and the longest bridge in the world. But the best and cheapest plan was chosen to bring it to life. And that probably wasn't the best idea for the 550-meter bridge because of a lack of leadership. Some problems started to appear as it was being built. Lower cords on an arm of the bridge were bent and then 2 more bent cords were found. Still, construction continued. Then in 1907, everything came to a head. A worker by the name of Beauvais was driving rivets into a section of the bridge when he noticed one of his fresh rivets had snapped in two before he had a chance to report it. The giant cantilever dropped below him and crashed into the river. The entire bridge ended up in a pile of twisted metal. Out of 86 workers on the bridge, 75 died. The twisted steel crushed some drowned in the water, and others died from the sheer fall alone. Number 5. Floating doors. From brick walls to floating doors, engineering fails can occur almost anywhere and any part of the house door. Construction and designing may be some of the easiest tasks when building a home, a hotel, or any establishment. The main goal is to carve out enough space mid-project so eventually the right door will fit inside, while attaching specifically sized doors may not be a problem. There's another obstacle that arises. What if a door was built in an unconventional space and not close to the ground? Then what you would end up with are floating doors, exit points, and doors have to be built precisely because even a few inches of wrong measurements may cause catastrophic results. Some may trip, fall down, or even break a few bones here and there. Oh, if a few inches can do so much damage, take a look at these floating doors that can actually be deadly in some cases. This one door in a college or university lecture hall looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. One just has to hope that this exit route is not actually functional, because new college students and freshmen might have to learn the lesson the hard way. But if you saw high-standing doors in a classroom were bad and dangerous, take a look at these extreme floating doors. What's worse than indoor misplaced doors are the ones that leave straight outside of the building. These particular doors need a warning placed near them so no one walking by makes that deadly mistake. Number 6. Brick windows. You know what they say when a door closes? A window opens. Well, in most cases, at least, windows have the ability to let sun rays and beautiful blue skies shine through and immediately lift any mood. While reading an interesting book right next to rain down, windows can often feel like movie scenes. While some might think that window engineering fails are almost impossible to accomplish or create, think again. Take a look at some of the funniest examples. House attics are a great place for extra storage or even extra room for angsty teenagers who want space. And while the teenager may enjoy bricked up walls, it's not the ideal design for the rest of the family. One home attic had the unfortunate engineering fail of having chimney bricks line up their window and ultimately disposing of their function. But attic windows aren't the only part of the home that can feature very interesting brick designs. This next home has a brick window right in the middle of their living or their dining room. Not the best place to have family dinners or even game nights. Number 7. Troubled bridge over waters of Venice. The city of history, culture, canals, and cranial injuries. Surprised by that last one? Yeah, they tend to leave it out of the travel brochure. The city's impressive Grand Canal is over 2 miles long and 225 feet at its widest point. Despite this, however, in the mid-2000s, there were only 3 bridges crossing it, which could get pretty crowded. So in 2008, the city commissioned famed architect Santiago Calatrava to design its 4th Grand Canal Bridge. Calatrava was previously responsible for such eye-catching architecture as Sweden's Turning Torso Tower and Spain's Oratorio data entry. So Venetians were expecting something breathtaking for their upcoming bridge. But this was the result of Santiago's hard work. They wanted a La Constitution or Constitution bridge. Stark, simple, and bold. Citizens were pleased with the bridge's elegant, curved design and striking translucency. But there was something these Venetians were blind to. You see, to get that see-through look just right, Santiago had primarily constructed the bridge out of glass. And why is this a problem? Well, Venice experiences around 32 inches of rain a year and distributed pretty evenly across the months. And glass is a notoriously slippery material when wet. This made Constitution Bridge fairly treacherous to cross all year round, but in winter it was a death trap. In addition to receiving a lot of fog in the winter, the rain that fell onto the cold glass bridge would quickly freeze, making it even more slippery. The bridge soon became infamous among locals and tourists alike, as pedestrians suffered constant slips and accidents attempting to cross it. What's more, there was no ramp, which meant if you were in a wheelchair, you had to pray. The person helping you up those stairs had steady footing. Now we can all laugh and point at Santiago for this blunder. But how could he have seen this coming? Well, maybe because he'd made this exact mistake before creating Bilbao's notoriously slippery Zubi-Zuri bridge, also made out of glass. In the end, the city of Venice had no choice but to cover the Constitution Bridge in a series of ugly stone panels, ruining its aesthetic but improving its usability. Lastly, here's an honorable mention. Disney Death Ray. In 2003, Disney decided to add a little more prestige to their name by commissioning famed architect Frank Gehry to design a classy new concert hall for them to be located right in the middle of downtown Los Angeles. His final proposal was sleek, futuristic, and somewhat trippy. Obviously, the unconventional design split people's opinions. Even though it's clearly an impressive piece of architecture, it's also a bit of an eyesore in more ways than one. This metal abomination was comprised of over 12,500 curvy, stainless steel panels. This meant that, while you could safely appreciate the concert hall's unique design at night, during the daytime it became blindingly bright. The steel panels covering the building were extremely reflective, to the extent where people said looking at the building in the day was like staring directly at the sun. To make matters worse, the hall is right next to a major road, and its unavoidable glare was responsible for temporarily blinding multiple drivers. Furthermore, the concert hall didn't just reflect light, it also magnified heat. According to some bystanders, the sidewalk around the metal monstrosity could get as hot as 140 degrees, enough to leave some serious burns if you weren't careful. Realizing they had basically installed a permanent lawsuit machine, Disney acted fast. They had each and every one of those 12,500 panels sanded down, making them significantly less shiny. While this means the building isn't quite as grossly incandescent as Gary envisioned it to be, it's a heck of a lot safer. Because of its death ray abilities, Gary's project joined the honorable group of buildings that melt things, alongside London's infamous walkie-talkie. If you want to investigate more about the latter, well, that's one slip-up Santiago won't make again. Well, don't quote me on that. Well, they might not have been pretty, but they were a hilarious collection of engineering oversights and failures. Which did you think was the funniest? Let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button. And until next time, thanks for watching.